Hello, all, and welcome back to Foundational Greek. And today we'll be introducing moods. So, what is a mood of a verb? A mood refers to the relationship between the verb and reality. In English, there are 5 moods. The indicative mood, which describes something that is, which is seen in the following sentences: Tom hit the ball, and Greek is a heavenly language. The indicative mood is normally the most common mood in languages. English also has a subjunctive mood, which describes a degree of possibility to a verb. Look at the following sentences. I might learn Hebrew. Subjunctives are also commonly used in if clauses in English, such as, if I were a rich man, I would hire a Greek tutor. English also has an imperative mood, which is the mood of command. English imperatives are in the second person. The example of this is the following sentence: watch the basketball game. English also has verbal nouns, which are called infinitives. These are recognized by adding the word to any verb. Infinitives are typically used in English to complement verbs such as this sentence: to study is my highest aspiration. In English, participles are verbal adjectives, which are indicated by adding an ing to a verb. Participles have an adverbial function, which describes the main verb more in detail, such as this sentence: after eating, my Greek teacher gave us the final. Participles also have an adjectival function, which makes the participle describe a noun, such as this sentence: the woman sitting by the window is my English teacher. Lastly, English has gerunds, which are like participles but function as nouns. As you see in this sentence, living well is a goal in our culture. Now in Greek, verbs can have indicative, subjunctive, imperative, and infinitive moods along with participles like English. Greek also has an additional mood called the optative mood. Though this mood was a dying mood in the New Testament, it still existed at the time and will be described later. Also, non-indicative moods in Greek are expressed mostly in the present and aorist tense, sometimes in the perfect aspect and rarely in the future. Usually, present aspects and non-indicative verbs indicate a continuous action. The aorist aspect indicates an undefined action, and the perfect aspect indicates an action as a state of affairs. Non-indicative Greek moods also contain a voice, except in the infinitive mood, and Greek moods are indicated by either a change of ending in the verb or a change of the letters in between the verb root and the ending, which is called the tense formative. The tense formative is important in that it communicates the mood and aspects in the verb or in the verb. One of the most common non-indicative moods is the subjunctive mood, which is indicated by an omega or an eta. In the tense formative, we could see this with the verb legomen, or we speak to legomen, which is let us speak. Subjunctives, since they describe possibility, are one step removed from reality, so they're commonly found in purpose statements and or if clauses. We see this in 1 Timothy 5:7, when Paul commands tata parangale hina and pelemtoi olsin. Command these things in order that they may be above reproach. Hina, which you see in this text, and eon, which correspond respectively to in order that and if, indicate a presence of a subjunctive verb in that Greek text. Now for the optative mood. The optative mood is the mood of wish in Greek, which has a similar role to the subjunctive mood. The optative mood describes whether a speaker conceives a future event as something that may, can, or should happen. Optatives are translated like subjunctives in that the words can be translated as may, might, or can with the verb. Optatives are indicated by oi, I, or a at the tense formative. As we see in this example, legomen, as we speak to legoimen, may we continue to speak. One of the most common examples of an optative could be found in Jude 2. For this Greek text, Ilios humen kai irene kai agape plei thun theie, or may mercy and peace and love multiply for you. Oh. Now, the imperative mood is indicated by an epsilon or eta at the end, depending whether the command is singular or plural, respectively. As you see, Paul commanding Timothy back in 1 Timothy 5:7 tata parangale, command these things. Interestingly, Greek also has a third person imperative, which is expressed as eta, or onton, which is commanded as let them do blank, as you see in the Lord's Prayer. Let your kingdom come, let your will be done. Those phrases of the prayer are not suggestions in Greek, but are commands. Infinitives are the only verbs in Greek that do not indicate person. They usually end in ein, or isthai, or einai. Infinitives commonly appear seemingly out of nowhere in the text, since while infinitives can function as nouns or have a complementary function to certain verbs, such as dunatai, solzai, he is able to save prepositions along with an article that are posted before an infinitive make the infinitive articular, such as diatol plus the infinitive. It makes the infinitive as because blank, or eistol plus the infinitive is in order to. Infinitives can appear very complicated or actually are complicated despite their simplicity. Last but not least, participles are some of the most difficult words to translate in the New Testament, yet are the most flexible words to translate in the New Testament. This is because they combine the rules of Greek verbs and Greek nouns into one word. Therefore, they can communicate singular, plural, case, gender, aspect, and voice. Like English, Greek has adjectival participles, which usually have an article before the participle, or the participles are expressing an adverbial participle in which they never have an article. Greek participles can also act like Greek adjectives in that they could communicate a group of people. One of the most famous examples of this is in the last phrase in John 3:16. For God so loved the world, they gave his only begotten Son, in order that all the believing ones in him may not perish but have eternal life. Most translations translate all believing to whosoever in order to emphasize the universality of all the believing, since the participle, as you may notice, is being expressed as a singular participle from the definite article whole. So the whoever in the text is not a whosoever can believe, but a whosoever does believe. Now you may ask, how the world did the Greeks memorize all these different inflections of the verbs and stuff and remember them in their heads? Well, they had a concept to do that called principal parts, which is a system of inflecting the verb to remember the aspects of the word. The principal parts are divided into 6 parts. The first part expressing the present tense or aspects. The second expressing the future. The third expressing the aorist. The fourth expressing the active perfect. The fifth expressing the passive perfect. And the sixth expressing the aorist passive. We're learning to read Greek in the future. It is extremely useful, if not necessary, to know the principal parts of the most common verbs in the Greek New Testament. Anywho, I found out that I had a lot to say about word studies, so I'll compile all the tips and tricks for a word study in the next and last lecture. Sorry for posting this lecture late, but I look forward to the next lecture on word studies so that you may know how to actively apply the Greek you just learned so far in the New Testament. See you next time.